The couple had been married for 10 years. They looked deeply in love, while their young son watched from the sidelines, laughing nonstop. One morning, the husband tenderly picked up a scarf and wrapped it around his wife's neck. At the hospital, as his wife changed into her scrubs, she noticed a blonde hair on the scarf. It wasn't hers. Her heart sank. The thought haunted her all morning. After work, she picked up the scarf again, staring at that blonde hair for a long time. Later, while picking up their son, she saw another mother with the same blonde hair. She froze for a moment, then forced herself not to read too much into it. At home, everything seemed normal. She made dinner. They ate together as usual. After dinner, she noticed her husband's phone still charging. She hesitated, then reached for it, but he suddenly walked in. Startled, she quickly pulled her hand back. He didn't notice anything and went straight into the shower. While he was still in there, she checked his phone again. Nothing unusual, just a few everyday photos. She sighed. Maybe this was all in her head. The next day, she still couldn't shake the feeling. Before the end of her shift, she left work early and drove to her husband's office. A few minutes later, she saw him walk out with a bouquet of flowers, but he didn't head home. He drove in the opposite direction. She followed him. Eventually, he stopped at a nursing home up in the hills. It turned out he was visiting his grandmother. When he saw his wife there, he looked surprised, even a bit guilty. In front of his grandmother, they both pretended everything was fine, but she knew something was off. He'd told her he'd be done with work at 7, but it was only 5. She asked a nurse and learned he'd only visited once in the past 6 months. Now she was more suspicious than ever. That evening, he said he had to go to a company dinner. She offered to come along, mentioning that as the deputy director of the hospital, she knew his boss's wife. He hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. At the party, he greeted his boss, but the boss barely acknowledged him, so she jumped in and introduced herself. The boss's wife recognized her immediately. She was her doctor and warmly invited her to sit down. She smiled and said, "I'm his wife." Then she noticed it. The boss's wife's hair, the same color as the hair on the scarf. Later, she ran into a patient who worked as a maid there. She quietly confided her suspicion that her husband was having an affair with the boss's wife. The maid promised to keep an eye out. The next day, the maid called, saying she'd seen the husband with another woman. The wife rushed to the boss's house. Her husband was there. He looked shocked to see her. He said he was just there helping with a move. She ignored him, walked over to his car, and opened the trunk. There, she found a phone she'd never seen before. The wallpaper showed a woman's face. She stood frozen. Then she looked up and saw the boss's daughter sitting in the yard. The woman in the photo was her.